Yes. There we go. Like I said, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you all for joining us for the May Next Gen Speaker Series. It's really great to have you here. It's fantastic to have some of you here too who are not from the Planetary Health Campus Ambassadors program. As you may be aware, this is the second webinar that we have actually opened up the Campus Ambassador Speaker Series to all of our Next Generation networks. So it's really exciting to begin to engage a larger audience and have some really fruitful discussions in these sessions. I'd like to introduce Luis, who is our speaker today, who I'm very excited to have with us this evening. He is a former Planetary Health Campus ambassador, so can speak to that a little bit. He's also a current member of our Next Generation Youth Council, and so I'm really excited for him to be here, and I'll let Luis, you go ahead and take over and tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Thanks so much for organizing all of these sessions, Chantal. This is absolutely amazing, creating these bridges for all of us to talk. And actually, I don't want to start talking and just keep on. I really want to hear all of you guys who are here, and I'm so thankful for having this space for us to talk. Um, I'm trying to share my screen. Um, okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So, I guess the first thing I wanted to ask all of you is what brings everyone here? And because we're going to talk about these interfaces, and there are many, many topics, and I'll have to be brief about all of them. And so I just wanted to know a bit, where are you guys from? What are your main interests in this, all of those interfaces? It is focusing in health, it's focusing in education or policy evaluation. So feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat. I'm gonna start presenting the major topics I'm gonna be covering tonight. I wanted to introduce myself. We're going to talk about food systems and planetary health, trying to encompass those common grounds for us to talk. Then I'm going to start talking a bit about planetary health education and actually evaluation. And then I'm gonna showcase this program. It's called in Portuguese. I'm from Brazil, so we're talking Portuguese here, and the program is named Rolê Agroecológico, which could be translated to English in some kind of agroforestry experience, encompassing schools. I'm absolutely excited to talk about this. And okay, let's jump in. And then obviously we're talking about planetary health, so we're gonna have this call to action. Um, all right. Um, I'm Luis. I have a background in biological science teaching, which is the same area which was focused on my thesis, my PhD thesis. I've been enrolled with Planetary Health, I guess, since the Planetary Health report launched in 2019, which happened also in Brazil. We had a session, and I got absolutely passionate about this integration under Planetary Health. Uh, I supported the creation of the Brazilian Planetary Health Club. I contributed to the Planetary Health Annual Meeting in 2021, which also happened in São Paulo, which is my city. And right now, I'm part of the Next Generation Youth Council. Uh, I'm We have a working group in Brazil, a few working groups. Actually, the Planetary Health Brazil is organized with a few working groups, and the Education Working Group is the one I'm committed. And right now, I've been acting, I have a role as a coordinator in this NGO called the Center for Recovery and Nutrition Education, which I'm going to deepen right now. So, well, the Center for Recovery and Nutrition Education, which I'm gonna talk only as CREN, which is all of these letters. It's this nonprofit organization which started working on tackling malnutrition among children, and it has become much more since they started working with projects and the kind of the rolê agroecológico I'm gonna talk about later. The Crane mission is to nourish body, mind, and relationships in this integrated approach. So, as you can imagine, planetary health is something really important for us, since we can integrate the environmental agenda also in this well-being stemming from nutrition. Our core values are related to integrity, to respect, to contextual relevance, valuing local knowledge, and also these collaborative approaches. For this, there are three main pillars who are integrated in every action really, that Crane endeavors. And they are basically research. The first one, we have deep connections with many universities here in Brazil. The nutrition, health, and and wellness care. We have a school actually for uh, the basic school. Uh, no worries, Trinity. Okay. And the last pillar is related to innovation, consulting, and knowledge sharing. All of these pillars, they are related to bridging academic, local knowledge into policy making. So, in a broad view, this is what the Center for Recovery and Nutrition Education is about. All right, I'm gonna jump in the first major part, and I'm gonna talk about food systems and planetary health. And I wanted to start bringing this representation on the planetary boundaries. Uh, Real quick, that's not exactly the focus, but you can see how the time frame changes from 2009 to 2023. And we are literally crossing the many safe limits or boundaries that our planet can support life. The 2023 framework uh, is the most recent one. Uh, what are these boundaries, real quick? The first one is related to climate change. Uh, a few novel entities are like some impacts that we cannot measure, like COVID-19 was a novel entity, but also uh, another chemicals who are in the environment. We don't know exactly their impact in human or environmental health, and they are under this boundary about novel entities. The stratospheric ozone depletion, atmospheric aerosol landing, ocean acidification, the modification of biogeochemical flows, freshwater changes, land systems change, and biosphere integrity. These are the main boundaries. As you can see, for example, the biogeochemical flows, it is separated for nitrogen and phosphorus. They have specific particularities. But well, I wanted to get back to this broad picture, right? Uh, we can see that in the past 20 years, uh, we've been uh, overcoming these barriers, right? But I'm not here to just post bad news, and we are going to talk about solutions right now. And for this, I want to know what you guys been thinking and wondering about how these interfaces are related to planetary health and how they might be related or not to food systems. So I wanted to share this link. You have the QR code, and I'll also drop in the chat. Uh, I wanted to ask real quick if you think which of these planetary boundaries is most related to food systems. Well, I have to change the screen. It's not showing here. Um, Now you can see the main tier, right? climate change, land systems change, freshwater change. Okay. Actually, I had a spoiler talk about biogeochemical flows, and we're gonna dig into it. So thanks for answering. We're gonna have another quiz uh, following this one. I just wanted to get back to the presentation. Where is it? Okay. This is the latest IPCC report. Actually, is the summary for policymakers, and I wanted to bring this data for us to reflect which sectors are could be the most effective in tackling this systemic issue related to food systems and to the planetary health as a broader sense. I wanted to highlight that improving cropland management and also reducing the conversion of natural ecosystem is by far the most potential contribution to reducing our net emissions, but also, which is absolutely related to food system, is the agroforestry and also the shift in healthy diets. Those two approaches could be responsible for a major change in our emissions, and particularly in Brazil, uh, which I'm gonna share this video real quick. These images are not strictly from Brazil, but it shows how deforestation is advancing actually real quick. And in Brazil, we have a particular situation in different states. As you can imagine, Brazil is absolutely huge, and we have different states are accountable for different kinds of emissions. Hi, Livia. Feel welcome. Uh, I brought this kind of chart. It's a platform, absolutely amazing platform for bringing to classroom. I'm not sure how many of you are teachers, but I love bringing this to my students because it actually shows data. In São Paulo, which is the state where I live, our main emissions are related to energy, actually to fossil fuel burning. Uh, but you can see that's not the main emission sector for all states. This state right in the center is actually the number one on emissions. It's mostly related to land use and forestry change. And those charts are also from that platform I mentioned, which is open source. And I don't want to dig into the amount of emissions for actually those particular sectors. I just wanted to bring this general idea that in the past 20 years, our emissions in all sectors are raising this particular state. And we have to not be confused about the scale. As a science teacher, I have to mention that like in 2023 in here, we had most amount of carbon emission that, related to in comparison to all of other sectors, which is again something that is connected to agriculture and livestock because as you see, the deforestation starts this process for implementing livestock and agriculture spaces. So I wanted to get back to our quiz and to ask, in your opinion, about your region, which sector is the one most accountable for the emissions? Do you have an answer for this? It's in the same link as I shared previously, and I really curious about how are your perceptions about your environment. Waste. Wow, interesting. Um, let's see if a few more answers pop up. Energy to waste plants. Everything is related, right? It's quite harsh to separate. Even in the IPCC, you can see, we can see that this land use changes is absolutely related to agriculture and livestock. So that's kind of a tricky question. But I wanted to know if you're all aware which sector could be most directly involved in this kind of emissions. All right. I've been creating these grounds for digging into education, which is the part I love. Uh, I love being in classroom, and I have this kind of strategies for engaging everyone. And I do understand it might be real late for few of us, but let's get back to planetary health education. Has anyone seen an image like this or lived an experience like this? Would anyone tell me what this image is representing? Well, this used to be how schools in Europe looked like in a few centuries ago. This is a kind of a modern approach for education, and we are transforming this approach for education. So you might have heard of active learning on educating in the territory and outdoor education, and all of these approaches are related to overcoming this perspective for education, which poses students as merely someone who don't have to work to get the knowledge. They are like just receiving from the teacher, which is not, it doesn't have so much efforts. He's like literally in bed, having a classroom, yeah, actually giving a lecture. But well, things fortunately have been changing. And right now, I feel like this planetary health education framework is the most updated and directly connects with this kind of uh, challenges we're dealing in contemporary education. Uh, Again, I'm not going to dig deep into all of these meanings, but the main idea we have to know about this framework, it is like a rope, and we are like we have this cross section of this rope, and we are looking like upwards for this rope, and it has this main five domains: the Anthropocene health, movement, beauty, and systems change, systems thinking and complexity, equity and social justice, and connecting all of this, the interconnection within nature. This rope isn't in a vacuum. It is actually embedded in local learning priorities, the global agenda priorities, and this is also embedded in anthropogenic changes in planetary half scale, but also we have to be aware on the local impacts. So it's a real broad framework for us to direct the kind of education that is needed uh, in the 21st century. And it stems from overcoming this perspective for education we had in the late 19th century. But how can we implement this planetary health education framework? And that's the point I wanted to get with you guys. I have a kind of an intuition, and let me ask you if this could work. Well, I wanted to bring a few published and peer-reviewed articles to embody our discussion in the scientific agenda. And I wanted to start on this study. They were focused on children from 8 to 13 years old, and they were evaluating an outdoor environmental education program. The survey was designed in a pre and post test, and they had like 20, roughly 2,000 participants. This is the kind of questions they were asking. So this is a Likert type, which you have to assign how many points you agree or disagree. In this particular dimension, which was the cognitive engagement, they were asked how much do you have thought about the following things, like how should I behave when I'm visiting this park, the harm some people do to the park by their actions. And well, this is one dimension that they evaluated. Uh, that's the most important step. Like, which is the most important variable to predict if these children who took part in this program will be stewards for planetary health? And actually was not focusing in planetary health, but will be stewards for creating environmental justice and environmental conservation. And well, in this integration scope, this is their major result. This is a model, and what does this model represent? It represents cognitive structures. I'm not sure how many of you are aware of these psychometrics measures, but the main idea is we cannot assess what someone think simply by asking them. We have to understand these latent variables, which is some underlying factors under what we state. I mean, why someone would state that they have a lots of thoughts about how should they behave in a park. What does this mean? It could mean that this particular person, is absolutely aware and they have this cognitive engagement, or maybe he is someone who is told that it's a family value to preserve nature and behave well in when visiting these parks. So that's the idea of developing these kinds of models. Is to understand how these different uh, the technical term is construct, psychological construct. How are they related? And as any model in science, we have to test and understand if this model is stable. We have these fit indexes. This approach is called the factorial, exploratory, or confirmatory analysis. And well, this is the fourth model that they published in the magazine. I mean this because this is something I implemented in my doctoral research, and the first results, the first model is a mess. It connects everything with all of the parts, and we cannot specify which psychological construct is in fact contributing to determining those behaviors we can experience. So we have a first other factors like interest and cognitive engagement and others, impact behaviors, harm behaviors, and community behaviors. The authors found out that behaviors are most related to the second order factor, and there is another second order factor which they called elaboration. Um, Naming those factors is actually something that the scientists will have to figure out, because the output from the statistical programs, it just shows these values, these statistical values, and the scientist, the one carrying out the research, is responsible for attributing actual significance, not only statistical significance, but also this psychological significance. This is a real robust model, and I wanted to explore a few alternative
This is
models.
the Planetary Health Alliance.
Okay, feel free to jump in and comment if you want to, please. Uh, this is another study which was also published in Lancet Planetary Health. They were asking how climate anxiety influences how youth majorly. Uh, how they perceive governments acting or not. And this result is absolutely interesting. I won't dive into these particularities among different countries, but you can see uh, it's the same scale, it's the liquor type scale, which people could be extremely worried or not worried at all. And this is how the article was published. In a real quick comparison, there was this another article who also used this factorial analysis. Uh, the most accepted factorial analysis approaches for is focused in quantitative data in this Likert type scales. But this third article, this third publishing, uh, they stemmed from a qualitative assessment, actually. So it highlights the diversity of approaches that could be achieved with factorial analysis. This uh, real recent and it's an innovative approach. And again, they had those codes like we as solution, hope. The answers were about hope, the individual solutions, all of this. And the factorial analysis could group how the participants conceive and relate those kinds of different psychological constructs. I mean, the first factor they found out was the solution oriented, and the statistical analysis and the author's interpretation joined all of these solutions, hope, individual solution, and technological solutions on this first factor. There was a second major factor, which was also about climate politics, and the third factor was constructs related to perceiving the end of the world, like alarm impacts on humans or on wildlife. The data, it's quite interesting because in 2016 in the United States uh, election, they had this campaign, the letters to the next president, which was a major campaign. And those letters were the source for the qualitative analysis, which established those codes, and then the factorial analysis. So I wanted to bring this uh, broad uh, approach. We can start from quantitative data and we can start to qualitative data to implement the factorial analysis to highlight how psychological constructs are related to our action or inaction on climate. This is absolutely important in education because we have to shift this mentality for schools and the potential for the youth. So we are here with this great question, right? So if sustainability calls for a great transition, what should the great transition look like in planetary health education? And which tools could support us? Uh, it's an educational, an innovative approach. It's maybe we should build again schools and rethink how we're doing this. And again, I might have a few clues, which I really want to hear from you how to this sound. And that's where the whole agroecological program starts. Uh, I have a quick video which I interviewed this urban farmer, Regina, and I have these
E é uma coisa assim
captions.
muito interativa, porque eu achei que eles não iam se interessar
Can you
muito.
read the
E eles
captions?
são muito interessados no que eles veem. Tudo eles querem saber, tudo eles querem comer. Então, assim, é muito bom para eles terem uma outra visão do que é a agricultura orgânica, do que é o alimento que vai para o prato deles. Olá, pessoal, meu nome é Regina. Nós estamos aqui em São Mateus, na horta da Dona Sebastiana. Então, hoje foi a visita do Rolê. Rolê é um projeto feito pela prefeitura que traz as crianças para a horta, para fazer um conhecimento do que é a horta. E vieram uma turma de 21 alunos e a gente mostrou desde o plantio, desde o que é uma semente, um plantio, até uma colheita e uma hortaliça, uma planta finalizada. Tudo que eles aprendem aqui é muito importante, porque muitos deles moram em apartamento e não têm nem acesso ao que é uma plantação. Então, assim, o projeto é muito importante porque eles aprendem o que vai para o prato, o que eles compram, como é feito, como é produzido. E aí eles começam a dar mais valor e a participar mais daquilo que eles mesmos consomem. É um projeto muito interessante, muito bom, está sendo muito gratificante para a gente.
Legal, muito obrigado.
Imagina, eu que agradeço, foi um prazer.
So this is how Portuguese speaking sounds like. Um, so that's
E é uma
the
coisa assim muito,
a farmer perspective on the rolê agroecológico, a urban farmer. And well, that's where a rolê agroecológico, the agroforestry visits come in. It's an interdepartmental project. It's related to São Paulo Town Hall by the Municipal Department of Education in articulation with the Departments of Economic Development and also Green Environments. For implementing this, the town hall had this public call, which two NGOs are related, which is CREN, and the second one is Nia Hub. And we are operating like bringing all of the students from São Paulo public schools from 12 to 12 years old to these urban farms and parks so they can be part of the food system where their food is actually produced. So, from the student perspective, what's the full itinerary? So, they get out of school, they go to a first place. The first place is always an urban farm. And afterwards, they can go to the second place, which is usually a park or another urban farm. And they can have and feel in their skins actually what feels like being a farm and producing food, organic food. Then they are provided with a healthy and sustainable lunch, and they are provided with this kit, this which have different kinds of foods for them to bring the discussion about agroforestry and organic farming to their homes. This is something that contributes to intergenerational learning, and that's something that furthers the discussion at their homes. Uh, these are the steps from the farmer's perspective. They all of the steps are evaluated, and we are generating data in all of the steps. They have this pre-registration. We are mapping and uh, trying to understand which kind of production they are having in their properties. We provide information about how to prepare these kinds of meals and how to bring children to their properties, what should be talked, what should not be talked, and culminating to the school visit itself. But also the schools and teachers have this journey. I mean, they start by the scheduling and then they gather the authorizations. Teachers do prepare students like in conceptual perspectives. So like what we're gonna see there, we're gonna talk about photosynthesis, we're gonna talk about composting and how does this relates to the carbon cycle as an example. But I'm too much under the sciences, the biological science scopes. There, it is the program tries to encompass different knowledge areas, and we are really trying to engage teachers from the humanities and mathematics areas. It's kind of a challenge, right? Talk about environmental issues. Those teachers are not usually so eager to take part in this approach. A few numbers we had in 2024 trying to highlight the scope of the project. We have more than 2,300 schools, more than 1,000 teachers, and over 20,000 students enrolled. There were over 15,000 meals and nearly 20,000 agroecological kits. The numbers actually do not match because that full itinerary, which I showed previously, it was an option. The schools could choose like I don't want to have a meal or I don't want to spend the full day outside. I just wanted to go to an urban farm. So not all the visits had this full itinerary. That's why the numbers deviate. But for me, the most important number is this related to the students, over 20,000 students. That study showed on how the youth is perceiving government action or inaction or on climate change had 10,000 participating answers, right? Over 10 countries. And we have actually a huge opportunity for evaluating our program and for developing tools under factorial analysis approaches. So that's the scope I wanted to get. Our monitoring and evaluation approaches are focused on these different topics. We could approach a school, we could approach teachers, we could approach students' perspectives. We are already developing a few academic research under the farmers' perspectives on how they can be actually educators. Not only the teachers are educators, but the farmers themselves engaging their local knowledges. Uh, they are educators, and this is also being studied. At last, I wanted to get to this call for action. A few possibilities I wanted to think together right now is how could this sustainability and innovative educational approaches like bringing students outdoors, we could develop an integrated dashboard for like introducing a new kind of food for our children improves their learning, or actually that's something that does not contribute to their learning. That's something we have the opportunity to evaluate. And also our service, our questionnaires. We have to assess validity and reliability, internal consistency, uh, to actually see if we are really measuring what we want to measure. So I wanted to invite you all to think about these planetary health learning indicators. Um, I'll share a link with a Google Forms, uh, trying to keep in touch with you and maybe deepen research possibilities. This is the program website, their handles at Instagram, the Rolê Agroecológico and the Crane. And lastly, my email and also my Instagram handle, which is a professional handle. And feel free to reach me. And I'm really looking forward to hearing what this all of these crazy ideas and interfaces looks like. So that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Luis. This has been a fantastic presentation. I'm really excited to hear from you all, particularly from the campus ambassadors that are able to attend, because I know a lot of you are doing a lot of work in various parts of this. A lot of the campus ambassadors come from an agricultural background. Some are working more in the education side of things. Some are working with children. Some are working not with children. While you all are kind of thinking of your questions, please do drop them in the chat or raise your hand whenever you're ready. But I'd like to pose one first because, like I said, the ambassadors and everyone on this call are kind of working possibly in different areas within kind of what you've spoken of today. And so I think an overarching theme that we see across the board is something you mentioned just in terms of engaging the teachers, because you're trying to move outside of not just kind of the sciences. And so I'm curious how you're doing that, particularly in elementary education, because that seems like a difficult area in which to do that.
Yeah, this is something that stems from the curriculum, the syllabus, which is specifically allocated to biological sciences teacher and also natural geography teachers to bring environmental topics to classroom. But in academia and education research, there is a consensus. All disciplines should be engaged, as in planetary health, right? And it's absolutely amazing to see that we have a few indicators we are testing. We obviously can improve those indicators, but one of them is related to satisfaction concerning learning concepts. And the students are asked to assign which kind of discipline they worked during the visit. And the vast majority of the answers, they relate to sciences, to biological sciences. But that's something real particular that those are not the ones with the highest learning scores. The students with the highest learning scores are the ones who bring the humanities, who brings mathematics as something that they are most interested in, and they actually learned during the visits. And for me, this highlights the potential for interdisciplinary learning and to actually see those urban farmers as educators. We can learn in our territory. We can act in our territory. And the concepts that we are provided inside the classroom, they're alive. When we are planting, when we are harvesting, we can see those concepts enacting. When we see a crop that it's under a shaded area, it doesn't grow as much as the one under the direct sun. We can see photosynthesis happening. And well, again, this is the biological sciences teacher speaking. But if you go to an indigenous village, where the indigenous people show how they relate to food and traditional medicine, uh, the history teachers mainly, they're so excited and they actually can connect these to other major areas they are working inside the classroom. And for me, this is the explanation why these students who didn't mention the biological sciences got the best scores on concepts learning. They mentioned other aspects really interesting about like particularly a particular farmer who had this specific approach, like creating room for everybody sitting over the garden and maybe closing our eyes and trying to enhance our senses. Uh, I mean, this strategy for engaging the students not only from the conceptual approach, but also the sensory approach is something that was highlighted by students. And this non-conceptual learning, it was something that also is associated with the highest learning scores. So I'm absolutely fascinated about those results, and I want to understand better what does this mean, in fact. Maybe to talk about the environment, maybe the core concept on science and biological science might not be the most relevant. Maybe it is more important for this student to feel good, actually, have a nice day, have fun in the garden, than learning all of the steps for photosynthesis or the carbon cycle. It is important, definitely it is, but maybe we could focus in other approaches. Which would be those approaches? So that's the kind of questions we are dealing with.
I'm glad you bring that up. I remember when I was in elementary school, kind of around this age, there were a couple of days that we were able to go out, not only to farms, but to be able to interact kind of with food systems or just nature generally. And they really stuck with me. So I'm intrigued to like hear kind of down the line how that goes and what lessons stick. But I think that's a great point about having it be a fun learning experience and not necessarily kind of looking exactly at the biological sciences, but those could be ingrained in more of an active way or things like that. Um, I would love to hear from anyone else if there are any questions or comments about Luis's presentation or anything that he's raised so far.
I wanted to get back to the question. Thanks for the question, Chantal, because I myself, we go through this process, the academic process, and we have to learn many, many concepts and methodologies, and we have to be absolutely rational, and we have to uh, dig deep into logical thinking. And what amazes me the most about education is that not everything is about concepts. We have to understand this human dimension, the affections, how those feelings are the ones who actually direct us towards environmental protection or health protection and ensuring. And I've been struggling with myself. Which should I talk to these teachers? They have to talk with the students. Maybe they should focus on the meal because I had these meals and this is they are absolutely amazing. The fresh the fresh crops. I don't know how many of you had the opportunity to assess this kind of foods, but maybe this kind of visceral, like feeding our stomachs and our emotions could be the great shift in education. I guess we have to establish a model to assess this.
No, you're right. I think as particularly at that age, it's still too about feelings and experiences and just what you see, what you touch, what you hear. So even though you're getting kind of those that curriculum in the school, having that opportunity to go out and experience something new, like the farmer mentioned, living in an apartment with going to a grocery store versus going out to a farm and seeing where the food comes from is a huge difference. And the feeling and experiences goes to that question you raised about what does planetary health look like in education going forward. Great. I will leave a few more seconds, open it once more to anyone just for comments or questions. I know it's late for a lot of you, so I really do appreciate you joining in the middle of the night for some of you. It was really great to have you here. Um, this is the last call for any comments or questions tonight. With that in mind, I know we are coming close to the end of the hour anyway. So I think it is, I'll say thank you again to Luis for joining us this evening for the two of us, morning for others. I really appreciate you coming and giving a presentation about this. It's great to hear from someone who's been involved with the program in the past and is currently involved with other initiatives through the Alliance. We love that you've been able to stick around and we're still able to collaborate with you on projects like the one you've discussed today. And so I want to encourage anyone who's here tonight or reviewing the recording, as we will record or save the recording and share with the rest of the program, to reach out to Luis if you have any questions or fill out that form that you shared if you would like to remain engaged with this project or just planetary health, nutrition, and education generally. And yes, thank you so much again. It's been great to have you, and I hope everyone has a great rest of their evening, rest of their day, and going into the weekend.
Thanks so much, Chantal. Great pleasure being here, and thanks everyone who attended the session. Really eager to keep in touch with you and hear from your experiences. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.